A special show today. It's a show about Hanukkah, which is the festival that we're celebrating now. But it seems that the times are not very festive these days, both in Israel and in Europe and in the US. In the US, there are dark clouds as well. So it's basically happening all over the world. And it seems like just as in the days of Hanukkah, we are moving into more and more tense times. We would like to get your point of view on that, but before we get into that, can you explain really what is the meaning of this war between the Maccabees and the Greeks?
Yeah, today in 2015, we're practically undergoing the same states as the people of Israel went through back then, more than 2,000 years ago, where there were forces that wanted to separate the people, the nation, to divide it. And these forces, they came from abroad, from Greece, where there was the philosophy, which was completely based on individualism instead of connection, separation, each one with the development of his own ego, the exact philosophy that went hand in hand with the development of our world. Because our world's developing because the ego inside the person is developing, and inside a person's developing ego, he's constantly building a new world. And every time it's a more egoistic world. And as the Greeks started putting pressure on us, came the Maccabees and said that it's against our perception, against our people, against the very foundation upon which our nation is based on, because the people of Israel, it's not an ordinary nation that developed out of one family, suppose. But they came from ancient Babylon, where Abraham, our patriarch, saw that all of Babylon is turning into one great big problem. What we heard about as the Babylonian Tower, the Babylonian crisis, that people became so egoistic that they stopped understanding each other, which is called the confusion of tongues, where of course there was one language, but people stopped understanding each other. They were so distant from one another, so separated. And Abraham, who was one of the big priests in ancient Babylon, he discovered that the ego, which is constantly growing from day to day, from generation to generation in human society, is actually reaching such levels where it's unbearable, like it was back then in Babylon, because by that it wishes to specifically compel people to unite, to connect, to cause their unification. And Abraham, he made an announcement in Babylon, and many people came to him, and he collected a group of people that called themselves the people of Israel, and therefore the people of Israel to this day are not a people like the rest of the nations, but it is a people that grew out of a special ideology of connection. And as long as we were connected, since Babylon, throughout the entire history of the Egyptian exile and the first temple until the end of the second temple, we were more or less connected by love thy neighbor as thyself. This is what Abraham established as the code, the key of the nation. And the moment we fell from the level of love your neighbor as yourself, brotherly love, into unfounded hatred, the temple was destroyed and we went into exile. So the entire code of the people of Israel. When are we a people? When we're connected. If we're not connected between us, then again, we're dispersed like we were in Babylon before Abraham arranged us as a people.
So that that's my question really, because if the Maccabees were for unity, right? And the Greeks or the Hellenists or the Jews who were pro-Greek were for individualism. Okay, so they're divided. Why do they have to unite to fight because of that? Why can't they just, part ways?
No, because that was the ideology by which the people of Israel lived by, where the connection of the people is the reason for all the good and the flourishment of the people, of the nation, and the separation of the people brings weakness until everything really falls apart. And maybe at first it doesn't look that way, but this is exactly what's happening in Israel today, that we exist and we're as if the people of Israel in the land of Israel within our borders, but we're neither a nation nor a country, because we're not connected according to our natural foundation, and therefore we don't know we exist. We don't know how do we exist. And also the nations of the world relate to us with anti-Semitism, which is ever growing, because they don't see that we're carrying out our role. The role of the people of Israel is to connect and also set an example for the world how to connect, because the world is truly needy of the connection, because we're in a world which is on the one hand as one village, like ancient Babylon was back then thousands of years ago, but we're not connected, and therefore we're plunging again into the world global crisis.
So, and if, say, part of the people of Israel were to unite and live in a certain city, say Petah Tikva, okay? So all the people who want to unite live in Petah Tikva. The rest of the Israelis who are not really Israel, or according to the law of unity, live everywhere else. Wouldn't that solve the problem?
No.
Why not?
It doesn't solve the problem, because according to the plan of creation, the plan of the world, we, through our connection, have to cause the connection of the people of Israel, and the people of Israel has to cause the connection of the world. That's called to be light onto the nations, and this is a role we can't escape. And this is why the whole world hates us, because were we to give them an example of how to be connected, united, the whole world would see it and drink from it, take forces and the method from it, and would calm themselves down by being connected.